Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Diego Abregu with the Abregu Real Estate Group, and today I wanted to talk about rent backs and why I personally did a rent back with my own home that I just purchased. Okay, so the first thing we have to understand is what exactly is a rent back and why do you need to know this if you're looking for a home or if you're potentially thinking about selling your home. All right, so rent back, or the actual contractual term, is post settlement occupancy. What you have to know is on the settlement date, the day that the buyer and seller both close on the property, they both sign on the dotted line and transfer ownership from one owner to the other, and now the buyer is officially the owner. Typically, the buyer is able to move in and take possession of the home that same day that they sign. Now, with the rent back, you're actually agreeing to allow the seller to stay there for no more than 60 days. Okay, now why is it important to know that 60-day limit? Because anything over that 60-day limit actually becomes a investment property. And that's important to know because if you're buying a home and you are doing a rent back, you want to understand that 60-day is the limit, because anything more than that 60-day period, the banks and lenders will actually consider it an investment property. Now, why is that even important? Why does it matter if they think it's an investment property or primary property? With primary properties, banks consider it a lower risk, and they'll give you better loan terms, which include lower interest rates and also lower down payment options, as low as 3% if you're a first-time home buyer, or 5% if you are a second-time buyer doing a conventional loan. You also have FHA options where you can go as low as 3.5% down. Now, with an investment property, banks are going to require you put anywhere from 15 to 20% or more for this investment that you're going to buy a home and allow someone to live there. Now, you're probably thinking, why would anyone allow a rent back, and why are they so prevalent in today's real estate market? Well, as you may know, it is a strong seller's market, and sellers are not necessarily having the hardest time selling their homes, but they're having the hardest time relocating into their next home, right? It's easy to sell, but in order to sell, you need somewhere to go. And most sellers have the fear that they won't find a home that they can purchase. So rent backs help with the situation because certain sellers need more time to move, right? It's not like they can just close in 30 days and be out and be into their next home. So in this strong seller's market, a lot of buyers, and the flexible buyer has an advantage where if they don't have a lease or just an urgent matter where they have to be out of their current place in 30 days and they're either going month to month or they're staying with a relative, you have an advantage because you're able to structure your offer in a way that truly benefits the seller and able to work with them, right? So the way that it would work is you close on the property, say a typical 30-day closing, and then if the seller needs more time, an offer that's going to allow them to do a rent back looks more appealing than a traditional offer that's going to close in 30 days and forces them to be out. Now, as a home buyer, you're probably thinking, that's ludicrous. Why would I do that, right? Well, one, it's mainly if you really want the home, and if all it takes is to allow them to stay there a little bit extra, maybe move into your home 3 months opposed to your typical 30-day close and move-in date, that could work, right? For the right property, it could work. And this is why I always tell buyers to start your search earlier than later, right? Sooner than later. And the reason that is because you have a wider options of homes to choose from. If you are up against the clock and you only have 30 or 60 days to get out of your current place, and then you'll be in a sticky situation, it's not fun when you find the perfect home in the perfect location with a seller who's willing to accept your offer, though they need 90 days or more to move out of their home, and then the situation, the timing just doesn't work for that property and you miss out on your dream home. But if you're flexible and you start your home search early, you have an advantage, right? And if you're thinking about selling, understand that right now with the strong buyer demand, a lot of sellers are actually offering free rent backs. Okay, so how does that work? How does the fees work? And if it's a buyer, this is important for you to know as well. They're not going to pay you monthly rent like a typical landlord-tenant relationship. The way that it would work is the title company actually makes a prorated per day cost of your new mortgage, and they'll credit you at closing on the closing disclosure. Okay, so say your mortgage is $2,500 a month, right? So that's $2,500 per 30 days. For a 60-day full rent back period, you'll get credited $5,000 at the closing table. This is literally a credit to you, cash to you, that essentially reduces your closing costs if they were to occupy the entire 60-day period. Now, this is very important to know because depending on how the contract is written, very common in this market, the buyer is still responsible to credit back the seller any prorated amount if they were to vacate early with a 3-day notice. All right, that's very important to know because I always tell my clients, you want to outline that credit on your closing disclosure, that total amount, and not spend it until you have a confirmed vacating date, right? Because if you take that $5,000 that you saved from closing costs and you go buy some furniture, and then you find out that the sellers are moving out next week, you have to credit them back a certain portion of that prorated amount that they did not occupy your property. Now you have to write them a check that you already spent, and that's never fun, right? I think it's kind of self-explanatory of how that's not a good situation to be in. So the smart thing to do would be to take that $5,000 if the contract's written where you're responsible to reimburse them if they were to vacate early, and not spend it again until you have a set vacating date, and then you can have that extra $5,000 at the end of that period. All right, and why is this important to know? With the strong seller's market, as a seller, again, you have an advantage. You have a lot of buyers who are actually giving you free rent backs, where they're saying, hey, you know what, we don't even need a credit, just stay there and occupy the home, for that full 60-day period, and then we'll move in. You don't have to pay our mortgage, we'll cover that for you. Why would anyone do that, right? Why would any buyer do that? Well, for the right property in the right location in their dream home in a multiple offer situation, these are the kind of offers sellers are getting. All right, so if you're thinking about selling and you're worried about timelines, understand rent backs are a common and positive situation for a lot of sellers right now. And for buyers, if you're thinking about buying a home, start it sooner than later, because that perfect home might pop up on the market sooner than you think. All right, so why did I do a rent back on my home that I just purchased? All right, that's the next question. Now, the reason that I personally decided to do a rent back was because similar situation. It was the perfect home for us, perfect location, and it was such a great deal that I said, you know what, I'm willing to do a rent back with this owner and move in later at a later date, as long as I'm able to lock in my interest rate for a 30-day period, right? I could have extended the closing date and had a longer closing date, but I wanted to become an owner of this home so bad because I knew it was such a great deal. I did not want it to slip up. I wanted to settle on the property, become the official owner, and I would allow the seller to stay there for an additional 2 months until he can move to his proper location, right? He already has a house set up where he's moving to in West Virginia, and it worked out for me. It worked out for us. So we were able to negotiate a credit where he credited us for the time that he would be at the property, and we allowed him to occupy the property, and then we'll be moving in later in 2 months or so and make it our home. But as of now, we are officially the owners, and we are officially owners of this house. So that's just the recap of rent back. If you heard about rent back and you're not familiar with what it is, that's exactly what it is. And if you watched the video this far, I really do want to thank you for sticking it through, and please make sure you press the like button and subscribe. It really does help. And share this channel with anyone who you know who may be interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate. I'm always happy to talk. Again, this is Diego Abregu with the Abregu Real Estate Group and KellerWilliams Realty signing off. All right.